This episode's guest has worked with Toy Biz, Hasbro, and Mattel on some of your favorite toy lines. He's known not just as an inspired creator, but as a guide, mentor, and ambassador of the toy industry. David Vonner, welcome to Needless Thing.
What's up? What's up, man? I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me, brother. Thank you for having me.
Hey, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it so much. And actually, I'm going to turn a question that I've gotten my entire life. I'm going to turn on you now. Do you prefer David or Dave?
It's whatever comes out. It's Dave, David, Vonner. You know, it's so many Daves and Brians out there that it's not even funny. So because of that, everybody, especially at Hasbro, like it was so many Davids there, it wasn't even funny. So because of that, a lot of people always call me Vonner, but you know, people call me Vonner since I was a kid, and so it's whatever comes out of your mouth. That's cool.
All right. Well, when I'm doing like day job professional stuff, I go with David, but when I'm having fun, I go with Dave. So right now, though, you're professional. you're doing the job, doing the work.
It's funny, man. When certain people say it in a certain way, like it has its own identity. Like my boys, they call me Dave. My best friend, when he's being serious, he says David, like he says it in this real serious way. So, and then like my grandmother used to always call me Davy. My nickname is actually Two because I'm named after my father. So it has all these different weird, however I hear it, that the tone and the inflection, then I know who it is and how they're saying it.
It activates something, doesn't it? Because my parents call me David. They're two outside of day job stuff. They're the only ones that call me David. And as soon as I hear their voice say it the way that they say it, there's a difference.
Rings, right? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yep. It's the same way. It's the same way.
So I would imagine the first time I saw your name was probably in the pages of Toy Fair magazine. And
I love
10 years later, Toys That Made Us.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly been aware of your work for a very long time. But what made me reach out, what made me want to talk to you, is you posted a video from Colombia, kind of showing what it's like there, giving us a perspective of, look, this is the real deal. I'm here. This is what these streets look like. And that's the kind of thing we've been kind of dipping into a little bit lately. Now, obviously, we got to talk about toys. We got to talk about the toy industry. We got to talk about making action figures. But just to give everybody a heads up, we're going to kind of go all over the place a little bit because that's what we do here.
And honestly, that's how you make toys, man. I mean, you kind of go all over the place. You got to know a little bit of everything in order to make a cool toy. You know, it's more than just having an idea. It's about the inspiration. It's about the mood. It's the feeling. It's a lot of things that come into play.
My favorite journey that I've had, over the course of doing these interviews, having this show, has been over the past few years when I've really had the opportunity to talk to people who are making toys and just learning how much really goes into that process. That even now, having talked to everybody from Tim Clark to the guys at Legends of the Hidden Force to all these new O-ring creators, and getting that perspective of what goes into it. And even at this point, I know there are things that I'm not thinking about when I pick up, my little action figure and look at it. It's such an involved process. But before we get into the details of that, how did you get into that? Where were your starts? Like when you were a kid growing up, did you have an idea when you're playing with toys, like someday I want to make these things, or were they just kind of sparking your imagination back then?
Yeah, I mean, I always loved toys. They've been a part of my life all my life because I'm the only child. So, I've always had a massive amount of toys. Like on Christmas, my relatives, would come over my house. My cousins would come over my house for Christmas because my mom would just have it like Toyland, So, but I never thought of it as a profession because back then, and I'm 53 years old, but back in the early 70s, the toy industry was so secret. You didn't know designers, you didn't know marketers, you didn't you just saw them in the catalog or on a commercial on TV, but you really didn't know the inner workings of a toy company and anything like that. So I grew up wanting to be a comic book illustrator. Like I always loved Marvel. I had Marvel comics in the crib, and that's what I wanted to do. You know, that's what I always envisioned myself being was a Marvel comic book illustrator. And especially when Steve Rogers became an artist for Marvel, like it twisted everything around. It was like Steve Rogers is actually working for Marvel drawing Captain America. And it just that the tail wagging the dog, wagging the tail, wagging the dog just blew my mind. You know, so but obviously Marvel was always a part of my life, and like I had the Spider-Man Mego, um had like my favorite, my first, I guess, favorite superhero is really two, is Big Bird and the $6 Million Man.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I loved my $6 Million Man doll. You know, I had the Evil Knievel stunt cycle. I had a Green Machine when I was a kid. You know, obviously Hot Wheel cars, Matchbox cars. Had a little remote R2D2, like the first one that came out. So I had all these things, you know, when I was a kid growing up, and of course like Star Wars and my friend had the Alien. I remember when he had the Alien figure, and I was like,
Oh
"What?
man,
What is it?" Because I saw the toy before I saw the movie, and the toy was just so weird. I was like, "Why is his head like that?" In the upper set of the teeth that come out of his mouth, it just blew my mind. Godzilla with the shooting hands, with the sparks that came out of his mouth, like all that stuff I had. So toys was always around, but I never knew that that's what I wanted to do. I just knew that they were just a part of my existence, like always. And I really didn't put the two together until Masters of the Universe had came out, and my best friend's brother, he used to take these wooden blocks and he would draw like the portrait or the profile of the figure that he bought, and he would display it on his wall. And that was the first time I ever seen anybody do that. And he was like an amazing artist. And his dad had like a little wood shop in the basement, so he would cut blocks of wood, like 8x5, draw the portrait in there, and then have the portrait on the wood block, and then have the figure in front of it. And I was like, it never even thought in my mind to draw a toy. Like it never even clicked. And that's when I started drawing toys, because the anatomy of He-Man was just so different than anything else. Like to me, even though the proportions are super exaggerated, that was the most human I've ever seen a toy look at that time.
right,
Especially like
right.
especially when Arnold Schwarzenegger is starting to be big and all the other stuff. And obviously like being a teenager or preteen, that's something that's kind of floating in your mind, like the whole Charles Atlas thing, like getting sand kicked in your face and you want to be bigger. I will always see those ads in the comic book, like how to get big and lift weights and all that. So during that time, especially when you're male, you're aspiring to be bigger than what you really are. And that physical part, as that physical part started to come into my life, that's when that toy came out, and it just completely blew my mind, completely. And that's when I started actually drawing toys and figuring like maybe, like really it still didn't connect, because I went to the institute even after high school. Like I always would draw, and I think that's what got me drawing anything. But I went to the Art Institute of Philadelphia, majoring in illustration and graphic design. But it wasn't until I got hired at Spencer's as a product designer that I was like, I can actually draw things and turn them into real things. So that's when it really started to click.
And so there are a couple of things we got to zero in on, because one is you made a really good point. I mentioned that I think I first saw your name in Toy Fair, and Toy Fair was the first time that we did start to become aware of the people behind the toys, the people that were
Mhm.
making toys, and the idea of like, oh, these are artists. These are no different from comic book artists, really, as far as creating a concept, executing it. But with comic books, like if you read them like I did, you're reading like everything, the ads, the Marvel bullpen, like
Everything.
where they talk about the artists. I mean, you've got the credits in the front, of course, but then you also get the little, the little pieces of Stan Lee talking about, the various creators and stuff. So we had a little bit more of a window into that comic book world than we did the toy world until,
Right.
Toy Fair came along
Yeah,
and
because I mean, when you think about it, like the Secret Wars was really based off of, it was really made to sell toys, right?
yeah,
And but we knew like Jim Shooter and Bob Layton and Mike Zeck and like all these guys that worked on Secret Wars, but when the toys came out, it was just Mattel.
yeah,
Like you didn't
yeah,
know, or just Kenner or Hasbro. Like you didn't know anyone. It just that information just wasn't around like that. So when Toy Fair magazine came out, man, like it was the beginning of, now looking back at it, like that whole period, like the early mid 90s was the beginning of a evolution and a revolution in the toy world.
oh yeah,
And I remember like what really did it. Like I mean, I was getting Toy Fair like it was my Bible. Like Toy Fair, Wizard, Lowrider magazine, Heavy Metal. Like I would get all that stuff. Thrasher. I would get all these magazines, and the Source Hip Hop magazine. Like I
yeah,
would get
yeah,
all these, right, and along with my comic books, because it opened me up artistically. Like I really started to see a whole nother world. So around that time, there was a magazine called Action Figure Digest,
yeah.
and they had this write up on Digger Mesh, who started Art Asylum, and Digger was literally the first person that I ever like knew who, like, their name was associated with sculpting, like just making toys. Like I never even like had that correlation before. And then as I'm reading this magazine, and then I get called into an office, and this is why I'm at Spencer Gifts, and they tell me that we're working on Kiss, and it was really just me and my boss, and like the buyer, Susan Ellis. She ran all of rock and roll, so she had like a direct line like with Bon Jovi and Gene Simmons and like everybody, everyone in the music industry. She actually helped Jimi Hendrix's father get his estate together. Like that's how like deep
Wow.
she was, right? So like I'm working on this stuff. Like I had a meeting with like Priscilla Presley that came down, and she's talking about Elvis and how like the 6/6 special was so dear to her heart. You know what I'm saying? I'm sitting there like, this is Elvis's wife right here, and like it was mind blowing. So I'm working on Elvis, and then the Doors and Jimi Hendrix stuff and Rolling Stones, like doing shirts on and stuff. But then we start working on Kiss, and
Well, let's real
Digger had.
quick though, for anybody
Mhm.
for anybody watching or listening, that isn't our age, let's establish the fact that Spencer Gifts was it for pop culture in the early
That was,
90s. Like
yeah,
if you
man.
can go to a mall now and you can got you see Spencer Gifts, but it was different. There's no internet back then. Do you just order all the weird stuff you want? Like it was the place for, like you're saying, all the rock and roll merchandise. Like if you wanted posters, you went to the back of the store, flipped through the poster rack. Like, and at Halloween, back then, there's no Spirit Halloween. So Halloween,
No.
Spencer Gifts does a store reset where the whole front of the store is just, that's where you got your masks and all that other stuff. Like it was, I don't think you could understate how cool Spencer Gifts was from really before the 90s, obviously, but like through the 90s, kind of until Hot Topic came along.
Mhm.
It was
Absolutely.
Spencer Gifts.
Spencer Gifts was like what Amazon is right now when it came to pop culture. Like
Yeah, it
like
was everything.
you walked into the mall, and like here, I'm actually still in Colombia, but in Colombia, the malls are still big. But in America, the malls are dwindling, like they're empty.
Yeah.
A lot of places are empty. But back in the 70s, in the 80s, in the 90s, the malls were the thing. And Spencer Gifts, you were walking in, and it was like this pop culture experience. Like you walk in there and you see like uh, gag stuff, and then you walk a little bit further and then you see fantasy stuff, and then you walk all the way in the back and it's like the adult section. Then you got the movie posters, and then you got more gag stuff. Like as you walking around, you're going through all this like over the hill and you getting the dirty
Yeah, yeah,
joke.
yeah.
You getting
And you couldn't get that stuff anywhere else.
no, you couldn't get anywhere. I mean, you had lava lamps, plastic poop, rubber chickens, whoopee cushions, you know, the gag cups that when you drink it would spill on you. You can
Yeah,
get
yeah.
magic trick stuff, like all kinds of just wild things. And it's funny, my team, like when I got hired at Spencer's, I was the first product designer hired on staff, and it was just me and my boss. And because all that stuff that they had in there was all through vendors, and they wanted to start designing their own thing. And as we started to work, we were actually the precursor to what Spirit of Halloween is now.
Yeah, yeah.
So um and also too, Spencer Gifts, the home office was in my hometown in South Jersey, right outside of Atlantic City in Egg Harbor Township. So it was always a part of my life. Like I would see the factory. My aunt used to work there when I was a kid, but no one knew what went on in Spencer Gifts. And then like people at church thought it was like the occult, like it was
Oh, yeah.
Satanism and stuff like that. Like I actually had somebody in church tell me that I should not work there because there's like satanic rituals going on. And I
Oh,
was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
it's nothing like that, because that was where you can actually get a Ouija board. It was like the only
Right.
place where you could actually get a Ouija board, and that scared the mess out of people back in the day. Like that was the only place where you could get tarot cards, like stuff like that. So Spencer's was always a part of my life, and I wound up getting hired there directly after I graduated from art school. And I'm going in there, and like the first day I'm working on Elvis. And it's funny because my boss was like, I don't know if you know who like the Beatles are. Like, I don't know if you know like Elvis, but they didn't know that I was a closet. Like I always loved documentaries, and I always loved Elvis because there was, at the time, a bunch of Elvis documentaries about his life, about his death, just about everything. And then the Beatles documentaries, the Rolling Stone documentaries, like the Mick Jagger sniffing coke on the on the switchblade and
Yeah,
everything. And,
yeah, yeah.
documentaries on the Doors, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Jefferson Airplane. Like I always like Woodstock. I always loved all of that stuff. And then it was like the B movie stuff, like the horror movies. So like all that stuff I was working on, I loved it. So eventually we started working on Kiss, and as a kid, I loved Kiss because they had, not only did they look cool, but they had a Marvel comic. And I remember there was this big thing about them drawing blood and putting their blood into the ink vat to actually print the comic book. And
Yeah.
that was like the coolest thing in the world to me, So we're working on Kiss, and then Digger has this company called Artist Island, and I'm like, yo, I know that guy. I just saw him in the magazine. So like I'm working on these Kiss teddy bears and slippers and wine goblets and all kinds of stuff. And Gene Simmons is like, we're in phone meetings with him. He's cussing us out and everything. And I thought that was like the greatest thing. And then Digger, it was this big meeting, and Digger had came to down to the office, and he wanted to meet all the artists, but he didn't know it was just me and my boss. So he comes in there, man, and I swear that was I never was inspired by someone like that, like in the flesh. Like I had never met anyone at that time in the comic book industry or like super, in my mind, super famous like that. But to me, because he, had this, I was just reading about him. He did these cool dolls and like giant action figures, and I was like, man, I was just so inspired by him. And he came, and I was drawing this Ozzy Osbourne Crazy Train incense burner, and he was like, man, that is cool, man. Like, I dig it, and I'm just like, we're talking art talk, you know what I mean? And he see
Yeah.
like my office crazy, and I got other action figures there and comic books, and he's talking, and he's telling me like he met Stan Lee as a kid and all this other stuff, and I mean, I was like just blown away. And now to this day, like Digger's like, he's like my brother, man. And I'll always tell him, every time I get the chance to tell him just how inspired I was, and I would not have a career without him, because he gave me the battery in my back, you know what I mean? And he was like, hey, if you ever want to come to Brooklyn, man, I got a spot for you. And I was just so grateful that he even saw that in me, to put that out there. And I didn't even take him up on the offer, but it just inspired me to be like, you know what? Because I loved his rebellious nature. Like, he was just a rebel, and I just loved that. And I was like, hey man, I want to take the chance to gamble and either pay me more or I'm leaving, And I was paid $25,000 a year, had a wife and a baby, and they were like, no, we're not paying you anymore. So I walked out and quit, and from there, I went to a preschool toy company called Shellcore. Was there for a few months, and then after that, an ad was in the paper, and it was actually Toy Biz, and started working there, and that was a dream come true, man. That was a dream come true. And like I said, at that time in the mid late 90s, it was like a revolution, because now you had all these guys coming out of art school and art colleges that wanted to do something other than comic books. And now they're designers, they're illustrators, they're sculptors. Like, guys went to FIT in New York, the Fashion Institute, and me going to the Art Institute, and like guys had all it went in, people were having all these skills, but they wanted to work on what they love, which was Marvel at the time. And Marvel went through this crazy bankruptcy, right? And it was like, and people don't even realize, like, younger guys, or, and I say this a lot, but there was a time, like, Marvel, what it is now is nothing like how I was at, the end of the 90s. Like, it was in the gutter. Spider-Man wasn't worth anything. And it was sad. It was sad to even, actually, to be honest with you, that was the first time, and also by me becoming an adult, that was the first time that I actually understood what bankruptcy actually was. Like, man, this is real. Like, they're under. So me being a part of a team that, in a group of individuals that helped Marvel come back, not only is it such a special time in my life, but to be like one spoke in this giant wheel was just something that, as a kid, I always wanted to be a comic book illustrator, but I wound up making a bigger impact developing toys in a way that I never even would have dreamed about.
Yeah, I mean, there's no denying. Well, okay, so you were there in the midst of how toys blew up, and I think how the adult collector market really became a thing. And we often say on the show that Todd Toys, or McFarlane Toys as it's now known, was a huge part of that, of
Absolutely.
really aiming figures at adults, getting into Walmart. I remember those Spawn toys being in Walmarts in those old school clamshell, cases.
Yeah.
And it just being mind blowing and showing.
I remember when Cygor came out, and I was like,
yeah,
Jesus. I mean, my mother, my ex-wife mother-in-law got one for Christmas, and for my birthday. It was the one that could pump the blood, like you could pump his back and the blood went through the tubes. Remember that one?
Mhm.
And I was
Yes.
just, bro, I my mind left the room. Like I was totally gone. I felt like I was like in Mordor or somewhere watching Gandalf fight the Balrog. Like I was gone. Like my mind was gone, bro. And that just took me to I never knew that a toy could look like that.
And
It
that
blew my
was, I think, he knocked a bunch of the, or McFarlane Toys knocked a bunch of the guardrails off and showed that like this stuff is marketable. And then we get to Toy Biz, who have already had a ton of success with Marvel. Like those 5-inch Toy Biz figures, I mean, I had them all, man. I never
yeah.
stopped collecting.
And
And
and and
then
so
Marvel
since
Legends.
you mentioned that, you remember when Marvel went to 6-inch, people were pissed.
Yeah.
They weren't happy about that. They wanted to continue in 5-inch at that time.
But that's what happens every single time with every change is you have an established fan base, and you know we've got our big collection. We don't want it to change, even if it's better. We don't want that change. You know, the people that when WWE went from Jax to Mattel, and the people who just quit collecting. I'm not doing it. It just happens every single time. So you land at Toy Biz, and I mean that's honestly that Marvel Legends line is a key part of how Marvel got to where it is today.
Right, but like one of the things is that Marvel Legends wasn't even Marvel Legends at the time. There was a
Oh,
Marvel Legends out there, right? Really, the precursor to Marvel Legends is actually Spider-Man Classic.
right.
And that was developed by who I wound up working underneath, Damon Neat, and that was the first time that there was actually a super articulated Spider-Man, right? And that changed the game, not only as what a super articulated action figure can be, but it was so many things that was happening. It was like number one, toy, like we were working on Lord of the Rings, Spider-Man Classic, Marvel Legends. Jesse Falcon was developing Marvel Legends like secretly, but not secretly, right? He was building it up together, and we just, everyone around was just like, man, this is dope. Like to be able to see like Captain America, Iron Man, the Thing, the Hulk, like the Marvel universe shrunk down. That was amazing to us, right? And and Spider-Man Classic was the one that came out first, and that really introduced the variant craze, because we did Daredevil, and it was a yellow Daredevil, and it was so many things happening at that time. Like Toy Biz was starting to do their thing, eBay just came out, it was starting to be a thing. The chat rooms and forums, like guys started doing that, which was before the whole YouTube thing. Like everyone was in chat rooms and these forums talking about the figures. And when that yellow Daredevil came out, these sales numbers started coming back, and it was like this big bump. And then we started, like, looking online and seeing everything, and like, because back then it was like Ain't It Cool News was the big thing. And so we start to see everyone talking about like yellow Daredevil, and it wound up like on the secondary market, which again became like a whole new thing. you
Right.
know it was like we saw that in comic books, like guys would trade, and comic books would increase in value and all that. But with toys, actually, this was particularly like not like an old toy, but something that was still in the market. Like this is just a different version of what's already out there, and it wound up taking like a life of its own. So that's when we was like, man, we can, like, the variants can be a part of the line. You know what I mean? Like this could be actually a thing. And also too is like, not only can it be a thing, but it's a real thing in the comic books. Like Spider-Man had multiple costumes. Captain America had multiple. Iron Man had multiple costumes. Like there was different versions of the Hulk. And then we like, man, we could do Beast. We could do the X-Men and X Factor, and I mean, now it's like now it was almost like it was the dream scenario, because now we're talking about comic books all the time, Marvel comic books at Toy Biz, and Toy Biz is owning Marvel, and we're seeing like the publishing guys is like the floor beneath us. It was so surreal at one point. It was like, man, this is like the dream scenario is actually happening right now. And then it was like we had Dave Cortez and Phil Ramirez, and they were changing the dimensions of what sculptors can do with an action figure. And like I never thought that I would be like I was around when hip hop started, and you always heard about rock and roll, and about the surfing culture, and hot rods and rock music, like things kind of happening. But I never thought that I would be a part of that thing happening. You know what
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean? Because at the time when you're in it, you don't know that it's actually happening. It's just your job. But as all this stuff is happening, man, we're actually so far in our own bubble, because we had like some of the hardest, the dopest artists there too, man, and guys were freelancing like for DC and wanted to do comic books, and we were still trying to do like these other passion projects, like draw comic books on the side and hustle and do all kind of work, but we didn't realize at the time that what was happening was really the evolution of a revolution. Like at least I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And but then like once we step back, or once I step back, it's like, wow, this is like a real thing. And it was actually like years later, because like how you said, like Toy Biz started in 5-inch. People were kind of upset they was going to 6-inch. 6-inch takes off, right? And then I had the unique kind of experience of not only seeing that, but then leaving Toy Biz, going to Hasbro acquiring the Marvel Master License, and then people were pissed off that Hasbro was doing Marvel toys, and then they're pissed off that Hasbro's doing Marvel Legends, and then I start Marvel Universe at 3 3/4 line, and then to this day there has never been any vitriol like that, like how and right now there's a lot of like, it's kind of sad, but like when I read certain things or look on social media, it's almost like the culture is almost like a cesspool, in a way. Like
Oh
guys are
yeah.
just spewing like really vitriolic things and saying like just wild things, and there's so much tension and back and forth, and people trying to bash each other. But
It's
back,
a crazy tribalism. Like if
yeah,
you like this thing, you can't like this thing, and I think that's crazy.
yeah, and to me that really the atomic bomb blast was when Marvel Universe started, and like the whole Hasbro Marvel Toy Biz thing, like that just really blew everything apart, and really just kind of gave the lane for people to say what they felt behind a keyboard with a meme, with a name that is like an alias with a bunch of numbers in it. Like they had that freedom. And that was like the beginning. I remember like it was so bad, man. Like people, and I could take it. Like I could take, especially the way that I grew up and how my friends were, especially in the 70s. Like you rag on each other like all the
Yeah.
time in the schoolyard. Like that was the thing. But as I got older, and then people, I could take it. But then like I remember this one guy was saying like things that I felt was like personal. Like, man, you don't even know me to call me like an asshole like that. Like I don't
Yeah.
even know you. You're just ticked off because I'm doing something that you don't like, but you're trying to come at me personally. And that's when the things like really, during that time period, that's when everything to me kind of changed. That was the beginning of the change.
So much of that negativity, because I get it, I do toy reviews here on the channel, and I'll get, one day I'll have people saying, oh, you're a shill for Hasbro or Fresh Monkey Fiction or whatever, and then the next day I'll have somebody saying, "Oh, you were too hard on whatever." Like it's people who are it's some form of jealousy and some form of not informed,
And I
because
think
there are a lot of people
no, go
there are a
ahead,
lot
go
of
ahead.
people putting out like their opinions that they don't really have enough information to be making.
Mm-hmm,
Like, you can't
mm-hmm.
say, "Oh, Hasbro should have done this." You don't know what Hasbro should have done. You don't have
Right.
enough information. You haven't seen their budgets. You haven't seen what went into putting that line together. You don't know what was supposed to be in that. They just don't know enough to be making these kind of statements,
Yeah,
really.
but I almost think that it goes a little bit deeper than that. Like I think it's some really there are adults that it has some, I don't know what kind of trauma they went through as kids or
Mhm.
growing up. I mean, it's to the point now where you got people suing each other. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
man. Yeah, we can't we,
And I'm not,
we actually
I'm not going to name names, but
no, no, no.
but it's disappointing.
Yes.
It is so
Yes.
disappointing and disheartening, particularly when this is still a relatively small circle of people that
Yeah.
just that do this, and we know each other, and I know these people personally, and had relationships with them, working relationships with them. And it is just disheartening to see that we've we devalued ourselves to this level,
Well,
and this is supposed to be fun.
it's it's so inspiring, the number of creators out there that are working together, that are helping each other out, that are, hey, here's how we do this at this factory, or actually, here's my connection at this factory. Like, again, talking to a lot of the people who are doing like O-rings and stuff now, Operation Recall, Skeletron, Call Sign Longbow, like all these people working together, sharing information, sharing creative visions. Like, that's inspiring, and that's what this business should be.
Hmm.
And to have anything toxic in such a beautiful creative endeavor is a real shame, because it's not necessary, and it's not doing anybody any good.
No, especially when you go like for me, like I'm for me it's like some I made my first friends through toys. You know what I mean? Like as a kid, like, hey man, you want to play my stuff? You want to play my toys? And that was an icebreaker for me, and um when being a kid, and you know how little kids look at each other, almost like how like puppies or dogs see one another, and they can't stop looking at, like they hone in on each other, and little kids do that the same thing. And I remember being in a toy aisle like a Kmart or Woolworth, and these places in the toy aisle, and I would see a kid, and then we both turn and look at the toys, and we're both standing there amazed, like our mouths are open, jaws are dropped, you know what I mean? And or going to the comic book shop, and my best friend is half black half black and Puerto Rican, and we you know we go into the comic book shop, so it's me, him, we see white kids, Asian kids, you know Middle Eastern kids, and we're all looking at Spectacular Spider-Man 102, like you know what I mean, or looking at Walt Simonson's store, or seeing John Burns Marvel Fanfare #1 with all the splash covers as pages in there, and we're like mystified. Those things brought us together.
Yeah.
So now, man, when I see, like how you said, like, and it's true, like it's this tribalism, but it's become such a hotbed of these very toxic individuals that spew toxic words at each other, to the point, man, where it's like it's disheartening at times. It's almost like, man, like, did we make this to have this? Like, That wasn't how we were at Toy Biz back in the day. I mean, and I mean, like, if we are still family, and if there is issues, it is not because what you said online, like it's not like that, or what you said about my toy is not like that, or it shouldn't be like that. But when I see like these individuals now, man, that are so just so harsh in their tones, like for instance, like I helped you mentioned the Toys That Made Us, and I was on feature heavily on there, and helped Brian Volkweiss start up the toy portion. And like, I'm the other day he posted something like, you guys never see the bad emails that I get, but here's one. And this guy, like, I don't know if you saw it, but it was like really, really, and he put out there unedited,
Yeah.
right? And it was like, why would you get that upset? Like, why would you get that upset where you're personally lashing out? And then not only personally lashing out, but you saying all kind of stuff that is like homophobic. I've seen a bunch of racial stuff. I see a bunch of just all kind of stuff, man. That it goes in these areas and lanes where it's like, man, like, I back when I was a kid, I loved Dukes of Hazzard, and it wasn't until I got older when I understood what the Confederate flag was about. But when I was a
Mhm.
kid, and not to give it a pass, because there were people that had issues with it, like my grandmother, she had an issue with it, but that wasn't, we didn't bass each other over that. It was like, man, that's the General Lee. Like, that's the General Lee. You know what I mean? Like, we love it, and even with Hulk Hogan, like with the things that he said, and people really take it to heart, which, and not giving in the past what he said in the past, but Hulk Hogan is always going to be Hulk Hogan to me. Like him tearing off the yellow shirt, like, man, that's the dude that was Thunder Lips in Rocky 3. You know what I'm saying? like it's just strange now that as we're getting older in this, like, I like to call it a genre, almost like writing horror. Like, it's a form of entertainment for me. Like just the toy
Oh
business,
yeah.
you know, like comic books are a form of entertainment. The toy collecting, the toy world is like entertainment to me, and it's just amazing how negative it's gotten. Where it's like, man, I don't like that.
I I think that a part of it, and there's so much to what you just said that's, reflective of our society right now as well. I think people are unfortunately, because of who's in charge now, I think people are feeling freer to be open about whether it's homophobia, racism, whatever. Unfortunately, that door has it's never closed. We weren't there yet, but it's wider than it was,
Right.
10 years ago.
Absolutely. And that's actually one of the reasons why I even not only came to Columbia, but reached out to them, reached out to IP Imagine Art Day, because it was one thing. It was like, people were like, man, it's one thing voicing what you don't like about a figure, you know what I mean? And like, that's one thing. But then, like, to me, some of the things that I was reading went beyond what, like, a personal preference. Like, it was bordering
Right.
on like really racial, and like, like just is particularly with the misconceptions that come with Colombia in general. Like you mentioned, Colombia, the first thing people talk about is cocaine, which, bro, like me being here, like I haven't seen any type of stuff like that, especially not like how it is in America, particularly in like places like Kensington in Philadelphia. Like, you see open air drug use, like you see a bunch of people on drugs, bent over, out of it, like zombie land. Like, it's worse than zombie land. And but a lot of those misconceptions become tangible. Like, they
Yeah.
become real. You know what I mean? And it was like, man, it was just like it became personal. Like it to me, it became personal. And then also too, you got a lot of guys now who are in the toy now that they're in the toy business, whether they realize it or not, but they never had the professionalism to work in an environment like that.
Hmm.
And they, you know, like there's people that can't really take constructive criticism or any type of criticism, and then they take it personal, and then they want to lash out and then smear your name or do all other kind of things and have like this. It's almost like how the talk shows were in the early 90s. Like remember Morton
Yes. Oh yeah.
doing all that stuff and the Richard Bay show and like it seemed like it's like that now, you know, and it's like, man, like this is about toys and action figures and why bring that element into this?
Well, and those crazy talk shows with all the negativity and all the well, it is. It's negative energy. And unfortunately, we're in the wake of all of that sensationalism and that negative presentation of people. Um, and unfortunately, people are thirsty for that. And I think that's part of where all this comes from is because I'll tell you right now, uh, a negative vitriolic review is going to get more attention than a positive enthusiastic review.
Hmm.
That is unfortunately just a fact because you're going to get people sharing it, you're going to more people talking about it. That negativity is kind of it's like a magnet for some reason. People seek it out, and I don't, I don't get it, but that's definitely where we are. And there are people who are just generating that outrage just because they know it's going to get more attention.
Yeah, man, and it's even to me it's even sadder when you have someone who owns a business that is doing it. Like this isn't wrestling, you know, it's not like WWE where you got to be the heel, right? Like
Yeah.
like 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 I am a a husband, a father, a son, and then I'm a leader with who I work with, right? And it's like how would I look bashing someone else's business or bashing their name just to just to do it? You know, like I love, you know, Heath Ledger as a Joker, but I don't want to be the dude that just wants to watch the world burn. Like that is not me. I don't see any that's not how I was raised. That's not how I roll. That's not how I want my kids to even emulate to be. You know what I mean? And sometimes I think some people lose sight of that you know, it's almost like the Charles Barkley thing where he's like, you know, I didn't set out to be a role model, but you by default, when you become an adult, you become a role model to some individual, inspiration, and it may not be to a kid. It could be someone that is like, wow, man, you inspire me. I want to, you know, do what you do, or just be a part of what you are part of, or something like that. And that, and again, bringing it back to comic books, that power comes with great responsibility. And I think that there's a lot of people that misuse or mishandle or don't understand the responsibility of the power that they have. It's particularly in their words and their actions. You know, and it's just sad to see, you know, when you know it is really like seeing like to one individual, it's almost like, man, I can understand how Obi-Wan was like really pissed off at Anakin. Well, not pissed off, but disappointed at Anakin. Like, man,
Yeah.
like I failed you, bro. Like I really failed you. You know what I mean? Like I thought that you would be better than that just based off of, you know, being around individuals that wasn't like that. You know, but you know, you also understand that you, number one, I only can control what I can control. Can't control anyone else's mouth or actions, and you know, just not really be on that end of the spectrum. You know, it's like that's not the spectrum where I want to be, where I want to live, where I want to earn a living from, where I want to engage with someone in. That is the phantom zone, and I don't want to be over there.
And that's you said you know, Joker wanted to watch the world burn. My perspective is I want to see the world succeed. I want to see everybody succeed. I want to see
Mhm.
I'm it makes me so happy to see people working hard and succeeding. And I never want to have any part of somebody not succeeding, whether it's
Mhm.
through negativity about them or whatever the case may be. Like, I want us all to do the best we can at what we love doing.
Mhm. Mhm. Especially when it's like, man, this is like your dream. Like
Yeah.
everyone deserves to have not only the dream, but being the right to pursue their dream. You know, I mean, especially when you're not hurting anybody, you're not damaging any, you know, you're not manipulating anyone, you're not taking advantage of like kids or anything like that, like doing anything physically or negative in that sense. But it's like, man, you're just like really letting your imagination and your passion really go. You know, and I just want you to experience what I experienced. That's one of the
Yeah.
reasons why I love making this, because it's like, man, I just want people to experience what I experienced. You know, like all everyone that I work with, I try to make I and it could be me and my faults, but I try to search for that same feeling, that eclectic feeling of eclectic individuals when I was at Toy Biz, man. And it was like, it was just, it organically was there, you know, and like we had our own version of the bullpen. It was beautiful, man. I mean, it was like, and I talk about it a lot, but I can still see like the room in the area where everyone sat, you know, and walking into the studio and just looking back and seeing Jesse Falcon in the corner, and looking at the other corner and seeing Damon Nee, and looking across and seeing like Jason Matterman, and behind me was Mike Mucci, in front of me was Junius Ortiz, and like, and all these people were like like successful like in the industry now. And then it was like, man, like I could still see everybody. I could see Phil walking in and Dave walking in, and you know, we had this guy, man, he passed, named Jock Brady. I could see him wobbling in there and everything. And he was like, come in there, just sit down for a half hour, do this crazy, beautiful sketch or drawing of like an orc or Gandalf or, you know, somebody. And then he'd get up and leave. And it's like, man, like this guy, Ben Caldwell, he's doing all these crazy, like he would take like stacks of computer paper. He never had like I never seen Ben with a sketchbook. Never. I always seen him with loose paper. And he wound up, he was just amazing. And he wound up doing like this how to draw book. You know, it was like his version of how to draw comics the Marvel way. Like he did
Mhm.
characters like that. And I was just like, this dude is like amazing. Like amazing. And Mike Mucci, who sat behind me, he worked on Dora on MTV. He was an MTV animator. You know what I'm saying? I'm like,
Man.
damn. I mean, like it was so much talent there, but we were all different, right? I mean, everyone was different, but the common nucleus was Marvel. And to me, like that's what I always try to get to. You know, like I would love to always love to have a team like that. You know, we kind of had that at Hasbro and you know and other places, but it's like, man, it's just like that's what it's like the Magnificent Seven. I want to have the Magnificent Seven over and over and over again. And it's impossible because you'll never have the same, you know, two people like that or teams like that. But it was the feeling that I love that fostered that.
Do you think a part of Toy Biz being so magical is that it wasn't a corporate entity in the same way that like Hasbro or Mattel or these other, you know, now we've got these super corporations that own everything, that license everything. And Toy Biz was, you know, in a way, uh, a young gun and still developing and still had fire, I guess.
Yeah, man. Like to me, Toy Biz was what Marvel was in the 60s. You know,
Mhm.
like it we and this is my opinion, my view, but I mean, everyone was so different. Like guys, one like there really there really wasn't a toy person, like now guys can go to major in toy design and all this other stuff, and like, but these was like just artists or like engineers that just like that's what they were, and but that passion mixed with that raw talent mixed with sometimes, man, like ignorance is bliss. When you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah.
like when you don't know the void means nothing to you. Right. So it like Hasbro and Mattel, they were these giant companies, right, that had these thousands of people working there, and everyone had like all the departments was split up. Like we didn't even have like a true like we had one person, Patricia Rinaldi's, like she was handling all the marketing.
Yeah.
We didn't have like a marketing department, or engineering department. Like we had guys that knew engineering, but like it wasn't like how like departmentalized how it is at these bigger companies. So like, and that actually caused a lot of friction when because like again, like when Hasbro took over the Marvel license, like you really didn't even hear about one toy company taking over and picking up the pieces from a former toy company that was beloved. Like that was kind of like a strange thing, and so it was like a lot of friction that was going on because the methodology was different, the mindset was different, the philosophies were different. It was like, it was like going from Sanford and Son to different strokes.
Well,
It was wild.
when when Star Trek went from Galoob to Playmates, like nobody got mad. Like it just wasn't a thing. And you mentioned Toy Biz. When you look at more Hasbro and Mattel, they're established, they're set in their ways, they know what works for them, they're more structured. So like the inherent risk that's involved in great creativity in a way, and look, don't get me wrong, I love my Hasbro Marvel Legends. I love
Mhm,
them.
mhm,
Hasbro does wonderful stuff. Mattel does wonderful stuff, but there is risk inherent in great creativity that is less likely to happen in that big corporate structure, I think.
mhm. And yeah, and I think like the philosophy of Toy Biz, like it's really started with Joanne McLaughlin, like our boss, and she wasn't like the biggest Marvel fan either, but she was aware of our fanhood and our knowledge of the brand.
Yeah.
Like so with that, she was like, okay, like these guys know what they're doing. She could obviously she knew business and all that other stuff, but she really trusted Damon and Jesse's outlook and philosophies of where we should go. And then like she was the tip of the spear, and then like Damon and Jesse was the two sides, and then everything like just came down from there. And that freedom of the philosophy of art and business, like you really getting like two sides of the brain. Then you really seeing the brain working. And I think that's what really did it, and then but it was magical when things started to take off, man. And we just wanted to be different, but also be like clearly McFarlane was the big dog, but then like other toy companies started coming, like Soda Toys and Palisade Toys and um,
Sideshow.
Sideshow, all that stuff started to come up. And
Mezco came up around, what was it, 2000,
yeah,
2001,
and
right
it's
around
funny,
there?
like Mezco actually started with Digger.
Yeah,
They had
that's
a line
right.
called Aztec Toys, and they did like Silent
That's
Screamer. They did Silent
right.
Screamers together. That's how Mez started,
I
and
completely forgot that because I've still got my silent screamers.
mhm. Mm-hmm.
I had completely forgotten about Aztec toys, though.
Yeah, and then remember
Wow.
Claiborne Moore, remember with the Lady Death and all that
Yep.
stuff,
I've
and
my Purgatory and Lady Death.
yeah, man.
One other one over here on the shelf. Still got that
But
stuff.
still,
That
like to me, still to this day, that Lady Death is one of the best female figures. You know, like that
and
is the
his
female sculpt is one of the best ever.
his sculpting was well. Let's see. I'm trying to think. He was doing the Buffy
Mm-hmm.
line at first before it went to Diamond, I think. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's right.
Mm-hmm.
And like those sculpts are just beautiful. I mean, that guy he was doing statues and stuff before he was doing action figures
Yeah.
even. I
And then
mean,
Stan Winston got into the toy game, you know.
yeah.
Man, I mean, and when Stan Winston got, like, I was like, man, I love Stan Winston. I wanted to be Stan Winston, you know. So it was cool when like this special effects guy come into our world now, you know, and it was dope. And then, you know, but the guys that were sculpting for McFarlane, right? Then they branch off.
Yeah.
Randy goes to NECA. The Four Horsemen come out of that. You know, like all these individuals started to you literally seeing the tree and the branches coming out,
Mhm.
and it was such an amazing time. Like again, like maybe guys don't even remember or know that the Four Horsemen used to be with McFarlane, you know. And one of my good friends who was one of the original Four Horsemen, Chris Dahlberg, his head is in the pail of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I
Yep.
thought that was the coolest thing. I was like, yo, they put a real head in the pail. That was dope.
But your head is on War Machine, right?
Yeah, man, and that was, bro, like I remember, man, that was just like a cool thing, and it turned into an even cooler thing because there's so much that came out of that. And also too, like Bob Layton is one of my favorite artists. And then working on Iron Man, you know, we built up a friendship and a rapport. And now Bob Layton is like my brother, man. You know, like we'll talk and about stuff that's not even like comic book related, you know, and toy related, but you know, and it's just amazing that even on that part, that is a for me to be a part of Marvel like that is like really cool. Particularly, like, I love that cover of Iron Man and Rhodey like flying, like Rhodey's burning up inside the Iron Man armor, and Tony's in the Silver Centurion armor, like, and he's like, my friend is burning up inside, like he's smoking, he's like, you know, like just in torture. He's trying to get him back in the Earth's orbit to help him, you know, like man, like they were just these cool friends, you know, like friends. Like
Yeah.
people didn't even know that was Rhodey during Secret Wars. They didn't even know. Like for a long time, the Avengers didn't even know what was going on. What's up with Tony? They didn't even know that wasn't even Tony. You know, so in the fact that Jesse, you know, he was like, hey man, do you want to be Rhodey and everything, and like that was just so cool, and I felt like that was a such a Tony Stark thing to do for his friend that Jesse did for me, you know. So like I'll always, you know, be in debt and honor to Jesse over that. You know what I'm saying? Like that was just, it was cool. And that was like my first time being a toy, and everybody, what kid don't want to be a toy, didn't want to be a toy, you know? So that was just really a really cool legacy to be a part of.
Well, we have been talking for an hour. I can't believe it. I feel like we barely scratched the surface of what I wanted to talk to you about.
Well, I mean,
But
we can keep going. If you want to edit it, make it 2 parts, that's cool. I mean, I'm still good if you want to, but if you got things to
well,
do, I understand, but because I could talk.
what I'd love to do, now are you going to be back in Atlanta for Toylanta this year?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What I'd love to do is have you back on a little closer to Toylanta,
Yeah,
get you a little
man.
hype for that. And
Yeah.
you know, we talked about eBay, we talked about the secondary market, and I'm going to throw this out there. I know I am going to show up to Toylanta with a Toy Biz War Machine
Oh,
for
wow.
David Bonner to sign.
Oh, yeah, I'd
So
sign it. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm putting it out there. Everybody hop on eBay, get on that secondary market, go to your local toy shops, find yourselves a War Machine and bring it out to Toylanta in March and
Yeah,
get this
man.
man to sign it.
Yeah, come out to Toyland. Shout out to my man Brett Barton, man. He's a really good friend. You know, we're working together, man, on his convention circuits, and it's so cool. It's so like I love conventions. I love being at
Yeah.
conventions and talking, clearly talking. You know, so it's really cool to see like again like how it's growing.
He has Toylanta and Joe Lanta has just really turned those into phenomenal things, and watching them grow and continue to grow is so exciting. We actually at Joe Lanta a few months ago, we were able to do a live table read of G.I. Joe Special Mission Brazil with
Oh yeah, yeah,
Peter.
yeah,
Michael
yeah,
Charles
yeah,
Hill
yeah.
was there with us for it. It was a blast. And, because of Brett let us do it. It was great. The dude is
That's
so
dope,
cool.
man. That's dope, man.
Um, so speaking of Atlanta, before we go, I want to talk a little bit about Brutal Realm.
Yes, sir.
How'd you get involved and what can you tell us about it?
I
Because
love
this
those
is, I'll be
dudes.
honest with you, I've seen them at all the shows and I'm like, man, look at that. Look at this super articulated, like He-Man style stuff, the proportions of them. But you know how it is, like, I collect so much. How do I pick and choose? What do I do? And then I keep seeing these things and I'm like, I know they're going to end up on my shelf. So how'd you get involved with this?
Well, I mean, shout out to James and Jason, man. Those are really two good guys and passionate about toys, passionate about action figures. And they reached out to me, you know, and wanted me to help guide them along. And it's funny, like how you saying, man, like, you know, how do I make room and everything? This is, you know, and it's so sad how people are out there that kind of giving them flack for waiting being so long and everything. But one of the things that we're doing is actually not only making, you know, perfecting it so it's really good, you know, and but also too is like I like the fact that Christmas is extended. You know what I mean? Like you gotta wait, you know, and I like for people to drool over it and want it so much because I don't believe in you don't have room. You're gonna make room, particularly when you get these. You're gonna make room.
Yeah.
But you know, they reach out to me, and it's been a fun, you know, endeavor, and not only seeing like guiding them, but seeing how their mind work, how you know they're also perfectionists, you know, and really doing their due diligence to make sure that they deliver the best product to the fans, but also how they're just having fun with like sword and sorcery. You know what I mean? Like barbarians and mythological stories and characters and making their own universe, you know, and that's one reason why I love the fact that the wait is definitely gonna be worth it because when you get these, you'll really be immersed in the world that they've created, you know, and it's so fun and it's like the 80s all over again, you know, with the backstories, with the look of the characters, the figures and all that stuff, just how barbaric and over the top they are. Like I feel like I'm the little kid again, man, that aspire to be big and have these big, larger than life characters and everything. And I hope, man, that you know, it's one thing for the adults to get them and guys to get them, but I hope that a kid get the brutal room
Yeah.
and do the same things that I saw my best friend's brother do, or do what I did, and actually like inspire them to draw. You know what I mean, and to sculpt, to feel the figure in the hand and see how just massive it is, and that's what I'm particularly looking forward to, like the inspire the next generation so they can have their master universe, you know. So it's fun. It's a fun line, man. And they're really cool guys too.
Yeah. I need to talk to them definitely, especially since they're local. And
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the things that's so special about Brett's shows, about Toy Lanta and Joe Lanta, and really all of these toy shows, is having the opportunity now to bring your kids out, or just yourself, and talk to these people who are making toys.
Mm-hmm.
Let the kids know this is something you can do. This is something you can aspire to. This is something that can happen for you, or just to talk to people who are making toy lines you love. Like the fact that I've had conversations with you, with the guys from Fresh Monkey Fiction, with the guy that are, because like I said, I never stopped collecting. Toys and action figures have been part of my life for 50 years now. And now we have this open door to the people, making them in so many instances. It's a special thing. So I mean, anybody listening or watching, go to a local toy show.
Man. Yeah, the local shows I think are better than the big ones, because it's more intimate. Like I talked to this one brother and he was like, man, I just started this like a couple years ago, like customizing and all that stuff. But he kind of felt like he never had anyone to express that with, and talk to about that, and then you go to a local show like Toylanta, Joe Lanta, and it's like, man, now you're in the presence of like-minded individuals. It's like you're coming out, man. Like no one's going to judge you, no one's going to dismiss you. No one's going to say like, that's lame or whatever. Like, man, it's all fun. That's really the main reason why I hate all the vitriolic stuff, because it's like, man, I remember the time. I remember the time when comic books wasn't cool, when it was not cool to wear a Spider-Man's shirt, when it was not cool to have, like, I used to bring my G.I. Joes, I used to put them in my pocket to go to school. Not only did, certain kids not like that, but my teacher confiscated my stuff, had it until the end of the school year. So like her drawer was full of my action figures. You know what I mean? Like you would get them confiscated, and people would, like, certain parents would throw their kids' toys away, because they felt like, all right, you're 13, 14, 15 now. You don't need to play
cut off.
Like, that's it. And my mom tried that. She was like, man, you're not getting toys anymore for Christmas. You're getting clothes. I was like, I raised hell. I raised hell, man. Like, but I just remember the time when what we have now is so special and so community driven. When I remember the time when none of this was in existence. None of this was in existence. So it's so cool when you actually go to a convention, whether it's big or small, and you can have conversations about, some obscure toy line or some obscure TV show. Like I was here in Colombia at Comic-Con, Colombia Comic-Con in Medellin, and I had never, and I've been to so many conventions, bro. I had never had a conversation about the TV show Manimal ever. Somehow we landed on this conversation, and it's because this guy wanted to organize. He started pulling out. He pulled out these Airwolf toys, right? And I was like, man, you got Airwolf? So I was like, man, I used to love Airwolf, but man, I remember Manimal. And when I said that, it was like a dog whistle. His eyes got big, and then other people, it was like, Manimal, like people who don't speak English, they heard me say Manimal, and they come over, and come to find out, Manimal was a popular TV show down here. And the way that, the networks are, they don't have like the plethora of channels and all that stuff. So classic shows like from the 70s, 89, they run all the time. So you have multiple generations, like younger generations, knowing these old shows from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And
that sounds like heaven.
Oh, bro. And I'm like, we're having this. I mean, how we're talking right now for over an hour. That's how I was talking about Manimal. I have never had a conversation with anybody, with anyone talking about Manimal, and that was it. And I'm talking to guys who, my interpreter, his brain was starting to fry, because none of these people speak English. My Spanish is horrible. He's interpreting with this whole crowd. We're all talking about Manimal.
And he's trying to talk about this man who changes into a panther and a hawk and a snake and whatever else.
Bro, it brought me back, because at Toy Biz we used to have conversations like that. At Hasbro we used to have conversations like that. Like throw out like trivia, questions to each other. You know what I mean? And it's like, you know how we are, how geeks are. It's like we say something that's so obscure, we thought of one line, we test each other's like you know memory now at this point.
Ooh, yeah.
Knowledge and everything. But it's like, man, it was like so dope to actually talk about this show. And then segue into $6 Million Man and Airwolf and The Man Called Hawk and MacGyver and all this other stuff. I'm like, man, like that, those conversations and broke down so many barriers just that day with
Yeah.
people that just met me in a totally different country. But it just showed how deep the pop culture thing goes, man. Like it really brought us and brings us together in ways like a religion or a culture, like how it brings you together. And that's why I say for the culture and why I love this, man, because it really brings, it can foster friendships and bonds and relationships like no other. Like some of my best friends, some of the best people in my life at this point, I met in the toy industry or being in the toy industry, you know, or meeting them at a convention, you know, and is something that is so special, and I want it to continue to be special, you know. And it's just like, man, it's almost like the death of rock and roll. Like I hate when you know, like I wish Jimi Hendrix was still around. I
Yeah.
wish, you know what I mean? Like I wish
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
guys
Yeah.
were almost like the same thing when we get corrupted, and now people are doing things not for the love, for the passion, but just for the money, or like I want to be the best. I want to be the king or the queen, or whatever. It's like, man, like why can't we just be doing this for the fun?
I, I think as humans in general, we have more in common than we don't have in common, and to focus
Absolutely.
on the things that we don't have in common is crazy.
Right. Like we stand on that. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
like you look different than me. You talk different than me, or
Right.
but
It's crazy. Who cares?
and that's the beauty. Like you have Marvel Legends. Obviously, it's Marvel, and to me, like that's the thing that Marvel was. All the characters are different.
Uh-huh.
My favorite superhero is Thor, bro. You know what I'm saying? It's like when I got older, like people were like, "How the hell can you like this Norse god?" I mean, like, but you know, it wasn't the fact that he was just this Norse god or this, you know, from Norway, anything like that. It was like he had a father, man, that would teach him these ultimate lessons, you know, and but also too, when I first picked up an encyclopedia, I went straight to T and saw Thor, and then I'm like, yo, this is real. And then I see Asgard in
Yeah.
there, I see Loki in there, you know what I mean? I'm like, that made Thor number one to me above everyone else because in the encyclopedia it was real. And when I saw Thor and Asgard and you know all that stuff and Ragnarok, and I'm like, it was real to me. It was like you could not tell me it wasn't. Like I can anything that's real, it's in an encyclopedia. So like that did it for me, you know. But everyone is so different, and you find these loves of all the different characters, and I love how different people love these different characters, and you see the essence of that in them, you know. And I always love that, and it's too idealistic, you know, maybe it's too hippie-ish, but I wish that everyone would mimic how the Marvel universe or the DC universe is. Like celebrate your difference.
Mine is mine's Star Trek. Mine
Oh,
is
I love Star Trek.
we should be headed for Star Trek,
Yes,
where
yes, yes.
those differences are put aside and we're learning and exploring. We
I
don't have to
even view
worry
that
about
I even view that when it comes to AI. I have a Star Trek Gene Roddenberry view of AI and not the James Cameron Terminator view of AI. Like I don't look at it like it's going to destroy us. I think I look at it like it's a tool that can make us better.
we actually dipped into that and we can't even get into it right now, but I'll just say I agree, it's a tool. The AI is not the enemy, it's the people that want to exploit it that are
Mm-hmm.
the problem.
Mm-hmm.
That's a whole conversation for another day. And David, I'll tell you right now, we are going to have a whole other conversation another day because this was awesome. I appreciate you so much for coming on the show
Oh
and
man,
hanging
yeah, I
out.
appreciate you, man. Thank you for reaching out, man, and
Yeah.
thank you for that, man. I love you for that, man. I love being on your platform, man, and I love having a conversation with you. So thank you so much, bro. Like this is really memorable and enjoyable. I love it, man. I love it. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Thank you. We'll be talking again. But before you go, what are you up to now, and where can the people find you?
Man, well, I'm doing all kind of stuff with independent creators. You mentioned Brutal Realm, Odious Kickstarter just had a successful Kickstarter. Working on with iFrog and the Bandito. We're all working together. I also have my factory partners over in China, my factory partners in Colombia. We're doing something where it's like, crossing all the geographical boundaries and bringing more, not only doing more cool stuff, but bringing more opportunities to the collector world. I love working with collectors. I love being able to share this stuff and give collectors the opportunity. So I'm doing that. I'm working with Brett Barton on his conventions, and hopefully I'm working on. I may be up in Canada at the action figure convention with the guys like El Dragoon and all that other stuff. And so I'm working with independent creators, fostering relationships, working with different entities as manufacturing stuff, and just using all of my talent and experience and abilities to build bridges and build opportunity.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. That's my whole desire is to just sort of keep making my voice bigger so that I can help people, make other people's voices bigger. Like that's all I want.
I just and not to be, I'm not religious at all, but I'm very spiritual, and I'm just being the tool of the creator. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wherever the creator points me to, that's where I go. And it's a learning process. It's like, why do I got to do this? Why I got to be the one? Or I don't know what I'm doing. But sometimes you just have to stop asking why. Do or do not. There is no try.
Yeah. And you keep your eyes open, and those opportunities, the path will become apparent.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. And like I said, we will absolutely be talking again soon. And I will see you at Toylanta.
Yeah, man. I'll see you there, man. Can't wait. I can't wait. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be, and we got some dope reveals at Toylanta too, man. It's gonna be pretty cool.
Oh, nice. All right. We'll see you there, man.
Cool, man. I'll see you. Thank you. Peace.
Smash that like button if you like Needless Things.